If you were to ask me to build the most complete or the most perfect wide receiver, it would most definitely have to be Julio Jones, just because what he does route running wise, his size, his speed, his hands, just basically all the traits that he has is so perfect. And the first thing that stands out that we're going to mention is just his route running. Here we have a Colorado route. Colorado, you rarely see wide receivers run Colorado routes because it's very difficult, but if you can run it to perfection like how Julio Jones here does here, it is a thing of beauty. And I've only really seen one other receiver run this route and just run it to perfection, and that is Jerry Rice, who many, including myself, consider to be the best wide receiver of all time. But here we go. Outside leverage from the defensive back. I love the pace that he runs with here because if you can look at this defensive back right here, which most defensive backs do, they'll have their eyes on your hips, shoulders. They want to look for cues, things, if you're tilting your shoulders or your hips one way to possibly guess and determine this route. But I love the pace he runs with it here. I mean, it's just very smooth. He doesn't seem like this is too difficult of a route with him. It's just very smooth. He closes the space right here. And I love how he turns his head as well. Because when he turns his head, that wide receiver takes his eyes off of his hips and off of Jones here to the quarterback. And when they do that, you've got them beat. And look at how the defensive back has his hips committed. Then he's able to just sink down, hardly any wasted movement. It's just a thing of beauty, perfection. Look at the separation he gets. The defensive back even falls. But what I also love here is his athleticism. Being 6'3", it's hard to see that kind of athleticism right there for the score. I mentioned Jerry Rice being the only wide receiver I've seen run that Colorado route to perfection, and here it is here. There's Jerry Rice to the top of the screen. Almost kind of similar situation that Jones faced, right? You have outside leverage from the defensive back, and Jerry Rice. I mean, he's the go for. I mean, all the things that he's accomplished, right? And then his route running. Same thing like Jones. Very smooth posture. Everything just seems under control for him right here. Defensive back, he gets them turned around. And then look at that. Sitting chair position, exactly where he needs to be. Explosive out of that break. Catch. Here he is again, a little bit later in his career, but just running the same route to perfection. And what I love is just pay attention to his stride because most wide receivers, before they get to their break point or the top of their route, they change up their stride, and you can tell the difference. Which, if you can tell the difference, the defensive back for sure, one thing can tell the difference and be able to break and make a play on it. But his stride, just the way he's so calm into it, I mean, is a thing of beauty. And then again, the separation he creates. Like that is his route to a T. The thing I love about Julio Jones that just makes him so great, in my opinion, is there's a lot of things that are difficult to him, but he just makes it look so easy. And for other receivers, that they would struggle with this. But we have him running a deep out route against outside leverage. I just like the way he attacks the defensive back's blind spot, and he's just patient. Everything is calm and fluid with Julio Jones right here. So watch him. It's a deep out route. Most receivers on a deep out route like this, they would panic. They'd want to break it earlier, but he does a great job and a textbook example of closing the space and working to that number 6 right here on the defensive back that wears 26, working to that blind spot area. I mean, perfect. There he is. Good snap down. I mean, the thing or the rule when getting out of your break or even into your break is 3 steps or less, and he's getting out of them in like 2 steps or less most of the time. And all those clips we've shown right there, he's got at least like 6 yards of separation, and the defensive back has fall. Same thing here, same route. We have a deep out versus outside leverage on this defensive back right here. When you're releasing inside, as I'll play this video, so y'all can see. Just a moment. when you're releasing inside and you know you have an outbreaking route, you and the receiver, your job is not only to win and get separation, but you also have to understand the timing of this route. All right, so it's play action from the Falcons right here. So he knows he's got a little bit more time to work with to get separation, get onto the toes of this defensive back right here, and win outside. But one thing is, you have to be patient. And I just love his patience right here. Closes the space with the defensive back. Look at how their defensive back has their hips turned already. And then he gets out of the break in 2 steps or less. Like it's just a thing of beauty every single time with Julio Jones. It looks difficult, but he just makes it look so easy. So we've seen his route running. Now his releases, they're at the same level with his route running. I mean, it's fantastic right here. He has a slant route. Okay, and we have Carolina, their linebackers, they're really close to the box, right? They're really from where the ball is at the 25, they're all forming a line right here at about the 28, 29 yard line, some of them. So he's got to win quick. I love the release that he gives right here. Outside leverage. I got to threaten his leverage to the outside, win very quickly on this release. And I love it because he has everything to square. None of his shoulders are pointing inside because you'll see most receivers do that. But he keeps it square, gives a hard jab step. He's going to use this momentum off of his front foot right here that he used on the release to propel him upfield. And then the hand swat gets the defensive back to completely move off their platform. Now they're in a bad position. Just, I mean, it's all remarkable from Julio Jones. And then the stiff arm. And what I say, if you give him the ball in his hands, in stride, yards after catch with his size and speed, he can make plays happen. I could watch Julio Jones film for hours, and it's just how good he is like hysterical. Just like how polished, how good. The traits he has, whether that be physically or technique wise, just absolutely insane. So here he is. It's going to be like the first routes we saw, right? Those Colorado routes. But I love the physicality he uses with it because he's shifty, right? He's got the good footwork and speed, all of those kind of speed traits. But he also can use his physicality right here. So spray release to the inside. Defensive back is going to get hands on him right there. He does a good job of fighting through the contact, keeping his body square, and even when the defensive back does get hands on him, his shoulders, because the defensive back gets a good point. That's exactly where you want to attack if you're a DB to the shoulders to get them uneven. Doesn't happen with Julio Jones right here, and just like it's a filthy route. I'm not playing at all. Everything about this he gives, it just looks like it's going to be a corner route. Does a good job with the head fake, having his body language positioned that way, and then he snaps off that route just like absolutely nothing. Stop on a dime. Look at where the defensive back is going. I mean, give him a map. Where is he going? With many great receivers and great players, defenses try to like scheme you out of the game. So obviously going man to man with Julio Jones isn't going to work. So you're going to have to use zone. And I believe I know for a fact it's this corner right here, this safety over the top right here. And I want to say it's also this linebacker right here that are going to be in the area or shaded to Julio Jones area. And he just absolutely wins. He fakes both of them out. So immediately, immediately, this is going to look like, all right, we got like some kind of high-low right here with the flat route from Sanu right here. Julio Jones, we're going to have him bracketed right here with this defender here, him, and him right here. The way he wins and just manipulates this, again, filthy. Like, this is why I believe he's the greatest receiver, perfect build your own kind of receiver. If you were to put him, build him in a lab because he gives perfect body language to this corner route right here. Look at the DB isn't even paying attention to this flat route right here. He's got his eyes on Julio Jones. The safety has his eyes on Julio Jones as well. And then watch him snap it off. Gets both of them. Look at the defensive back here. He's shaded that far. He should not be shaded that far to Julio Jones' side. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. A thing of beauty. The leverage doesn't look pretty, but for Julio Jones, it's a thing of beauty and it's easy for him. On a slant route, you're always taught press vertical, sudden snap, or violent snap down going the opposite direction or at that 45-degree angle, right? Exactly what he does here. Inside leverage. Defensive back gets a hand on him. He does a good job of fighting through this contact right here with the defensive back's left hand. And the pressure point is exactly where it needs to be. It's at the elbow, which is going to get that hand down, get him snapped off. Fights vertical. Fight vertical, violent snap down to the house for six. You can tell this defensive back that Jones is going up against right here at the 25-yard line is just fearing for his life. Like he's absolutely scared. Look at how far the leverage is, and it's going to be the same, deep out route from Julio Jones. Doesn't matter. And then watch the defensive back turn their hips again, turn their hips again, stumble, and then look at the extension from Jones. Extension, get both feet in for the catch. It's the small details from Julio that just make him the type of player he was and just an absolute Hall of Famer. So just watch the path that he changes. Okay, so it's the same route, deep out, but we can see He's starting like at the top of the numbers right here. All right, and I want to say it's his left foot that uses this pressure step, which is going to get him from the top of the numbers to about 2, 3 yards from the top of the numbers. So watch it right about here there at that. Let's see if I can rewind it back just a little for y'all. Not a little bit too far. But watch him right here. It's going to be with his left foot right there. That's exactly the one I was looking for. That left foot inside the zero of the 40-yard line. And he's going to use that pressure step to really threaten like this is going to be a post from the defensive back because he's at this moment Julio Jones has already won. Look at where their hips are for the DB. Goes back, defensive back. Look at his eyes and look at where his hips are pointing north. He thinks it's a post route. Just a master of deception is what Jones is. You know a wide receiver is him and has reached him status when the defensive back or the defense knows what's going to be happening and you still can't guard it. So it's outside leverage, deep out route from Julio Jones, and he knows that. So he's like, all right, I have to get to the sideline. This defensive back is already almost to the top of the numbers. So I have to spray release this way, really get into his blind spot. And the defensive back is just going to get wider, which is good play from the defensive back. He's smart. He knows what's coming. But I mean, Julio and defensive back is still in good position there when the ball is being let out. But he's Julio Jones. You don't usually hear leverage get mentioned when it pertains to a wide receiver. That's usually mostly reserved for like offensive linemen, defensive linemen. But it same. I mean, it still can be applied to football, and that's what Julio Jones does right here. So he's gonna be working deep crosser and then break it to the outside. This defensive back does a good job of getting hands on him, so Julio Jones can fight through the physicality. You see them both with fighting through the physicality. All right, he gets into the space of the defensive back. You don't see most receivers do this because most of them aren't as strong, but Julio Jones is in this scenario. And I love the pressure step right here with that left foot going to going to feel like this is going to be a complete either vertical or across the field. And watch what he does with the leverage, just using the momentum of the defensive back against him right there, and the physicality as well with the arm over. Sometimes you just gotta laugh at just how good he is. Like this should not be happening. And you sometimes you can almost just feel how scared the defensive back is. Watch him on this double move on a hitch and go. Good footwork, good release, hesitation. Does a good job. Look at how low he gets. So I would even say he probably gets too low and his feet look at his feet are way forward. way far forward, so that kind of leaves him off balance. He slips a little bit right there. But look at where Julio Jones is. Look at the defensive back. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And then look at the catch right there. Like, not the most perfectly thrown ball. I mean, if you put it to the sideline and make Julio Jones stop at about like the 42, 41 yard line, he can potentially cut this back and score. But look at the catch too. Exactly what I've been saying. The difficult things for Julio just seem so easy. In breaking route, defensive back, inside leverage, and you don't see most receivers feel comfortable or even attempt to go outside on an in breaking route and still be able to win. But for Julio Jones, it's just so easy for him. Good with the arm swipe right there, the separation, what he can do with the ball in his hands. And of course, this wouldn't be a proper Julio Jones video if I didn't mention this catch. If things were to go like as they should have when Julio made this catch, he's most likely a Super Bowl champion, and the Falcons save themselves of all the 28-3 jokes possible. But this is just one of the most probable, impeccable catches I have ever seen. I mean, he's using all of his vertical, yeah, completely standing with those long arms, and still, even at that, he's having to use his fingertips right here. And then the footwork is just so beautiful and pretty. I mean, like it's like a ballerina kind of footwork. So watch him right here with the left falling forward, your body. I mean, that's elite body control with the right foot right there, and still have some room to spare, some changes to spare. That's impeccable. That is improbable. And of course, last but certainly not least, in any regard, we got to mention this catch. I mean, head top with Luke Kuechly right there in front of his face, like a basketball like play, right? And then the score. If I was given the opportunity to create the best wide receiver of all time or a wide receiver that you would create in a lab, it would definitely look like Julio Jones just because he can win with his route running. He wins with his releases off the line of scrimmage. He can win with just his shiftiness, his speed, and as well as we've seen, his physicality. He has numerous route trees. He can run different routes from a variety of ways. Not every route just looks the same. The fluidity, how polished he is there, and then of course, like his yards after catch, what he can do with the ball in his hands at his size is just remarkable. I mean, I don't think we've seen a receiver his size since like Calvin Johnson, and even Calvin Johnson was 6'5". But just have that kind of overall skill set, what Julio can do with the ball in his hands, his speed, he's a deep threat in the form of just throw it up there and he'll make a play like we saw in the Super Bowl against New England and that head top catch up against Luke Kuechly and the Carolina Panthers. Julio Jones to me is just that perfect wide receiver because all the traits you look for in a wide receiver, he has the size, the speed, the athleticism, the hands, the body control to make difficult catches. And then you combine all the fancy things, like it makes him just that much more better. And in 2016, there was a debate of is it Antonio Brown as the best wide receiver, Odell, or Julio Jones? Production wise, like Antonio Brown was getting his production wise because and this is not to take anything away from Antonio Brown because Antonio Brown was an amazing skill set, right, with Ben Roethlisberger, and Antonio did a lot of great things as well. But having Big Ben and then having Matt Ryan, I would say is quite a big difference, and that's why Antonio Brown and other receivers were able to put up you could say better production than Julio, but you analyze the game and you look at it step by step and in minute details. To me, Julio Jones is that wide receiver, like the most perfect receiver you could create in a lab.